My name is Seraphina. I am 28 years old, and 3 weeks ago I discovered that my entire family conspired to destroy the most important day of my life. They chose my sister Madison over me, but what they did not know was that their betrayal would lead to the most shocking revelation about our family's true nature. The wedding they ruined to attend her last-minute engagement party became the catalyst for exposing decades of lies, financial fraud, and a conspiracy that would tear our family apart forever. Before we dive into this wild family revenge story, drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from. If you've ever dealt with family betrayal or wedding drama, hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life stories that'll leave you speechless. Trust me, you'll want to stick around for this castle ceremony twist that changed absolutely everything. 6 months before my wedding, I had everything planned perfectly. Marcus and I had been together for 4 years, and we decided on an intimate castle venue in upstate New York that could accommodate our 50 closest family members and friends. The venue cost us $12,000, which we saved for 2 years by cutting back on everything from coffee dates to vacation trips. I sent save the dates 8 months in advance. My parents, Robert and Patricia, my sister Madison, my brother Ethan, my grandparents, aunts, uncles, and cousins all confirmed their attendance. Madison even agreed to be my maid of honor, though she complained constantly about the dress color and the timing of dress fittings. 3 weeks before my wedding, Madison called me crying hysterically. She claimed her boyfriend Derek had suddenly proposed during a romantic dinner, and they wanted to have an engagement party the same weekend as my wedding. She insisted it was pure coincidence and begged me to change my date. Seraphina, you know how Derek is about spontaneous decisions. He already booked the country club for Saturday night. My friends from college are flying in, and his family is coming from California. Please, can you just move your wedding back 2 weeks? I explained that changing the date would cost us thousands in fees and deposits. The castle venue had no other availability for months. Our photographer, caterer, and musicians were all booked. Most importantly, Marcus's grandfather was flying from Ireland specifically for our date, and his health was declining rapidly. Madison's response stunned me. Well, maybe you should have picked a more flexible venue instead of some pretentious castle. Not everyone can afford your fancy tastes, Seraphina. When I refused to change my date, Madison launched into a tirade about how I was selfish and unsupportive. She accused me of being jealous of her engagement and trying to steal attention from her moment. The conversation ended with her screaming that she would not attend my wedding if I did not accommodate her engagement party. 2 days later, my mother called with devastating news. Seraphina, honey, we have decided to attend Madison's engagement party instead of your wedding. Family comes first, and she needs our support during this exciting time. You will understand when you have children of your own. I was speechless. When I finally found my voice, I asked why Madison's engagement was more important than my wedding that had been planned for months. Madison is our baby, and this is her first engagement. You and Marcus can always have another ceremony later. Besides, Derek's family has connections that could really help your father's business. We need to make a good impression. My father got on the phone and delivered the final blow. We already told Derek's father we would be there. He owns several car dealerships and might throw some legal work our way. You know how tough things have been since I lost the Morrison account. The betrayal was complete when my brother Ethan sent a text message. Sorry, sis, but you know how Mom and Dad are about Madison. Plus, Derek said he might get me an interview at his company. Hope you understand. Even my grandparents, who had practically raised me during summers at their farm, chose Madison's party over my wedding. Grandma Eleanor's voice shook when she called. Sweetheart, your grandfather's arthritis is acting up, and Madison's party is only 20 minutes away. The drive to your castle would be too difficult for him. I knew this was a lie because they had driven 3 hours to Madison's college graduation just 6 months earlier. The night before my wedding, I sat in our apartment staring at the final guest count. Out of 50 invited guests, only 12 would be attending. Marcus's family, our college friends, and my best friend Jessica from work comprised our entire wedding party. My family section would be completely empty. Marcus found me crying in our bedroom. His anger toward my family was palpable, but he held me close and whispered, "Tomorrow is about us starting our life together. They do not deserve to witness something this beautiful if they cannot see your worth." That night, I could not sleep. I kept thinking about all the times my family had chosen Madison over me. When we were children, Madison got the bigger bedroom because she was more social and needed space for friends. When I graduated valedictorian from high school, my parents missed the ceremony because Madison had a dance recital the same night. When I got accepted to law school with a full scholarship, the family dinner celebration was postponed because Madison was upset about breaking up with her boyfriend. But this felt different. This was not just favoritism anymore. This was complete abandonment. They were willing to destroy my wedding day for a last-minute engagement party thrown by a man Madison had been dating for only 8 months. As I lay awake, I started questioning everything about our family dynamics. Why did my parents always prioritize Madison's immediate desires over my long-term achievements? Why did they constantly frame my success as selfishness while treating Madison's demands as legitimate needs? The more I thought about it, the more I realized that Madison's engagement party timing was not a coincidence. She had known about my wedding date for 8 months. Derek had known about it too, because Madison had complained about the conflict during family dinners. They had deliberately chosen to create this conflict, and my parents had deliberately chosen Madison. In the morning, as I prepared for my wedding day without a single family member present, I made a decision that would change everything. I was done being the family scapegoat, the responsible daughter who was expected to sacrifice her happiness for Madison's whims. My wedding day would be beautiful despite their absence, but this betrayal marked the beginning of something much larger. I was about to discover that my family's treatment of me was not just emotional manipulation, it was part of a much darker pattern that involved money, lies, and secrets that went back decades. My wedding day at Ravenscroft Castle was absolutely magical, even with the empty chairs where my family should have been sitting. Marcus and I exchanged vows in the castle's rose garden as the afternoon sun filtered through ancient stone arches. Jessica, my maid of honor, delivered a speech about chosen family that brought tears to everyone's eyes. Marcus's family embraced me with such warmth that I almost forgot about the betrayal entirely. But 3 days into our honeymoon in Ireland, reality crashed back when Jessica sent me screenshots of Madison's social media posts from her engagement party. The photos showed my entire family laughing and celebrating at the country club, posting captions about family loyalty and supporting each other through life's biggest moments. The most devastating post came from my mother, so proud to celebrate our baby Madison's engagement. Family always comes first, and we could not be happier to welcome Derek into our hearts. Some things are worth any sacrifice. The word sacrifice hit me like a physical blow. My wedding was not a scheduling conflict to be resolved. It was a sacrifice my family was willing to make for Madison's benefit. But then Jessica sent me something that changed everything. She had attended Madison's engagement party as a family friend, and she overheard a conversation between my parents and Derek's father that made her blood run cold. Derek's father was bragging about how he helped Derek plan the whole thing, Jessica wrote. He said Madison came to Derek months ago worried about how your wedding would overshadow her engagement announcement. Derek's dad suggested they book the engagement party for the same date to test family loyalties and see who really mattered in your family. Your parents went along with it, Seraphina. They planned this betrayal. I read Jessica's message 3 times before the full weight of it sank in. This was not favoritism or poor judgment. This was a calculated attack designed to humiliate me and establish Madison's position as the family priority once and for all. Marcus found me sitting on our hotel balcony overlooking the Irish countryside, staring at my phone in shock. When I showed him Jessica's messages, his face went through several emotions before settling on cold fury. They planned this, he asked quietly. Your sister and her boyfriend actually strategized about destroying our wedding day. The more we talked about it, the more pieces fell into place. Madison had been unusually interested in our wedding details for months, asking about guest lists, vendors, and timeline specifics under the guise of maid of honor duties. She had pumped me for information about which family members were most excited about attending and which ones might be wavering. Derek had attended several family dinners where our wedding was discussed extensively. He had heard my parents complain about the cost and distance of our venue. He knew exactly which pressure points to exploit when suggesting his engagement party timing. But what disturbed me most was my parents' eager participation in the scheme. They had not been manipulated or caught in an impossible situation. They had actively chosen to devastate their daughter's wedding day to curry favor with Derek's wealthy family. That night, as Marcus slept beside me, I made a decision that would define the rest of my relationship with my family. I was done being their emotional punching bag, their sacrificial lamb, their designated disappointment. But I was not going to rage or plead or try to make them understand my pain. I was going to investigate. Something about Derek's father's behavior nagged at me. His eagerness to test my family's loyalties seemed excessive for a simple in-law relationship. His suggestions about strategic timing felt too calculated, too experienced. This felt like a man who had manipulated family dynamics before. I started researching Derek's family background using the legal databases I had access to through my firm. What I found in public records made me physically ill. Derek's father, William Harrison, had been involved in 3 separate business partnerships that ended in lawsuits over financial fraud. His pattern was always the same. Befriend small business owners, gain their trust through social connections, offer investment opportunities that seemed legitimate, then disappear with their money when the schemes collapsed. My father's struggling law practice, his desperation after losing the Morrison account, his eagerness to impress Derek's family suddenly made perfect sense. William Harrison was not interested in throwing legal work to my father. He was setting my father up to be his next victim. The engagement party was not just about humiliating me. It was about establishing Derek's family as trustworthy allies worthy of my parents' investment. By choosing Madison's party over my wedding, my parents had demonstrated exactly the kind of blind loyalty that William Harrison needed to execute whatever financial scheme he had planned. But there was more. Digging deeper into Derek's background, I discovered that his previous relationship had ended under mysterious circumstances. His ex-girlfriend, Vanessa, had filed a restraining order against him citing financial manipulation and emotional abuse. The restraining order mentioned Derek's pattern of isolating his girlfriends from their families and friends to maintain control over their finances and decisions. Madison, who had always been financially irresponsible and emotionally dependent on my parents, was the perfect target for Derek's manipulation. Her desperation to remain the family favorite made her vulnerable to anyone who promised to help her maintain that position. I realized that my family had not just betrayed me, they had walked directly into a trap that would destroy them financially and emotionally. Derek and his father were predators who had identified my family's dysfunction and were exploiting it for their own gain. The question was, did I warn them, or did I let them learn the hard way? Sitting in our Irish hotel room, surrounded by wedding photos and honeymoon memories that my family had chosen to miss, I made a decision that surprised even me. I was going to save my family from Derek and William Harrison, but not because they deserved my protection. I was going to save them because destroying these predators would be the most satisfying revenge I could imagine. My family would learn the truth about their precious Derek and his father, but only after I had gathered enough evidence to ensure that both men faced serious legal consequences for their schemes. My wedding day had taught me something valuable about my own strength. I had created a beautiful, meaningful celebration surrounded by people who truly loved and supported me. I did not need my family's approval or presence to build a happy life. But that did not mean I was going to let them be destroyed by con artists without a fight. The real battle was just beginning. When Marcus and I returned from our honeymoon, I threw myself into research with the intensity of a prosecutor building a case. Every evening after work, I combed through financial records, court documents, and social media profiles, building a comprehensive picture of Derek Harrison and his father's criminal enterprise. What I discovered was more extensive than I had initially imagined. William Harrison had been running sophisticated investment scams for over 15 years, targeting small business owners and middle-class families across 3 states. His method was always the same: infiltrate social circles through his children's relationships, identify financially vulnerable targets, gain their trust through elaborate social connections, then convince them to invest in fraudulent schemes that would bankrupt them completely. Derek was not just William's son. He was an active participant in the family business. His pattern of dating women from financially struggling families was not coincidental. Each relationship served as an entry point for William to access new victims. Vanessa, Derek's ex-girlfriend, was the daughter of a restaurant owner who lost his entire business after investing his retirement savings in one of William's fake development projects. The restraining order Vanessa had filed against Derek included detailed descriptions of his manipulation tactics. He would isolate his girlfriends from their support systems by creating conflicts and forcing them to choose between him and their families. He would monitor their communications, control their social activities, and gradually take over their financial decisions. When the relationships ended, his victims were left emotionally shattered and financially devastated, while Derek moved on to his next target. Madison fit Derek's victim profile perfectly. She was financially dependent on her parents, emotionally needy, and desperate to maintain her position as the family favorite. Her willingness to sabotage my wedding day to secure Derek's approval demonstrated exactly the kind of blind loyalty that Derek needed to execute his father's plan. But I needed more than historical evidence to protect my family and ensure Derek and William faced justice. I needed current proof of their criminal activity, and I needed allies who could help me gather that evidence without alerting the Harrisons to my investigation. My first ally came from an unexpected source. Jessica had remained friends with Vanessa after meeting her through a mutual acquaintance, and when I explained what I had discovered about Derek's family, Vanessa immediately agreed to help. "I have been waiting 3 years for someone to take Derek down," Vanessa told me during our first meeting at a coffee shop downtown. "He destroyed my family and made me think it was my fault. If your family is his next target, we need to stop him before he ruins more lives." Vanessa had documented evidence of Derek's manipulation during their relationship, including recorded phone calls where he admitted to lying about his finances and employment history. She also had copies of text messages between Derek and his father discussing their strategy for targeting her family's restaurant business. My second ally was Marcus's cousin Brian, who worked as a private investigator specializing in financial fraud cases. When I showed Brian my research on William Harrison, his eyes lit up with professional excitement. "I have been tracking this guy for 2 years," Brian said. "The FBI has an open investigation, but they need evidence of active fraud to make arrests. If we can document William and Derek targeting your family in real time, we can provide the Bureau with exactly what they need to shut down the entire operation." Brian agreed to help me gather surveillance evidence of William and Derek's activities, but he warned me that the investigation would require patience and careful planning. "These guys are experienced criminals," Brian explained. "They know how to avoid leaving paper trails, and they are experts at manipulation. We need to catch them in the act of attempting fraud, which means we have to let them get close enough to your family to feel confident about their scheme." The thought of allowing Derek and William to manipulate my family made me physically ill, but Brian convinced me that it was the only way to ensure they faced serious criminal charges that would prevent them from targeting other families in the future. My third ally was the most surprising: my grandmother Eleanor. 3 weeks after our return from Ireland, Grandma Eleanor called me unexpectedly. Her voice was shaky, but her words were clear and determined. "Seraphina, honey, I need to see you right away. Something is not right about Madison's boyfriend, and I think your family is in serious trouble." When I arrived at my grandparents' house, Grandma Eleanor was waiting with a folder full of documents that made my blood run cold. Derek had approached my grandfather about investing in a guaranteed real estate development project that William Harrison was supposedly managing. The investment required an initial payment of $50,000, which represented my grandparents' entire life savings. "Your grandfather wanted to invest without telling me," Grandma Eleanor explained. "He thought it would be a nice surprise if we could double our savings and leave more money for you children. But something about Derek's presentation felt wrong to me, so I insisted on researching the company first." Grandma Eleanor had discovered that the development company Derek mentioned did not exist in any state business registry. The address Derek provided was a vacant office building, and the references he supplied led to disconnected phone numbers. "I confronted Derek about my findings yesterday," Grandma Eleanor continued. "He became very aggressive and told me I was being paranoid and disrespectful to his family. Then he said something that chilled me to the bone. He said that families who do not trust each other end up destroying themselves, and maybe it was time for our family to learn that lesson the hard way." Derek's threat confirmed what I already suspected. He and William were preparing to destroy my family systematically, starting with my grandparents' savings and working their way through every family member who had resources worth stealing. But Derek had made a crucial mistake by threatening my grandmother. Eleanor Richardson was 82 years old, but she had spent 40 years as a high school principal dealing with bullies and manipulators. She was not intimidated by Derek's threats, and she was absolutely furious about his attempt to steal her husband's life savings. "I may have missed your wedding because I was a foolish old woman," Grandma Eleanor said with tears in her eyes, "but I will not let that boy destroy our family while I still have breath in my body. Tell me what you need me to do." With Vanessa's evidence, Brian's investigative expertise, and Grandma Eleanor's access to my family's financial discussions, I finally had the foundation for a comprehensive plan to expose Derek and William's criminal operation. But I also had to confront the emotional reality of what I was about to do. My family had betrayed me in the cruelest possible way, choosing Madison's manipulative boyfriend over their own daughter's wedding day. Part of me wanted to let them suffer the consequences of their choices. However, watching Derek threaten my grandmother helped me understand that this was no longer about my hurt feelings or my family's favoritism. Derek and William Harrison were dangerous predators who had probably destroyed dozens of families across multiple states. My family's betrayal had given me a unique opportunity to gather the evidence needed to stop these criminals permanently. The plan I developed over the next 2 weeks was complex and risky, but it would accomplish 3 crucial goals: protect my family from financial ruin, ensure Derek and William Harrison faced serious criminal charges, and force my family to confront the truth about their treatment of me and their vulnerability to manipulation. The first phase involved allowing Derek to believe that his manipulation was working while Brian and I documented every aspect of his criminal activity. The second phase would reveal Derek's true nature to my family in the most dramatic way possible, ensuring they could never again claim ignorance about the people they had chosen over me. The final phase would be the most satisfying, watching Derek and William Harrison face the full weight of federal criminal charges while my family realized that the daughter they had abandoned was the only one who cared enough to save them. But before we get to the explosive confrontation that changed everything, I need to know, have you ever had to choose between protecting people who hurt you and letting them face the consequences of their actions? Drop a comment with your thoughts, because this next part is going to blow your mind. Make sure you are subscribed, because you will not want to miss how this family drama reaches its incredible climax. The takedown began 6 weeks after our honeymoon, during what my family believed would be a celebration dinner for Madison and Derek's engagement. I had spent those weeks meticulously orchestrating every detail, working with Brian to install recording devices and coordinate with federal investigators who were finally ready to move on William Harrison's criminal enterprise. Derek had grown increasingly confident about his manipulation of my family. He had convinced my parents to consider a joint investment in his father's latest development project, a luxury resort supposedly being built in Costa Rica. The investment required $100,000, which would drain my parents' retirement savings and force them to mortgage their house. My father, still desperate to impress Derek's family and secure business connections, was ready to write the check. Madison actively encouraged the investment, claiming Derek had shown her financial projections that guaranteed triple returns within 2 years. Even my brother Ethan had been drawn into the scheme, offering to contribute $20,000 from his college fund to secure a partnership position in Derek's father's company. The engagement dinner was held at the same country club where my family had celebrated instead of attending my wedding. I arrived 30 minutes early, knowing that Derek and William would use that time to pressure my family into finalizing their investment decision. Brian was positioned at a nearby table, monitoring the recording equipment we had planted earlier. When I walked into the private dining room, the conversation stopped abruptly. My father looked guilty, Madison appeared angry, and Derek's face showed a flash of genuine fear before settling into his usual charming smile. "Seraphina," my mother said nervously, "what a lovely surprise. We did not expect you to join us tonight." "I would not miss Madison's engagement celebration for anything," I replied sweetly, taking the seat directly across from Derek. "After all, family loyalty is so important, as you have all taught me." William Harrison, who had been reviewing investment documents with my father, extended his hand with practiced warmth. "You must be the family's lawyer, daughter. Derek has told us so much about your impressive career." "I am sure he has," I said, shaking William's hand while maintaining direct eye contact. "I have heard quite a lot about your business ventures as well, Mr. Harrison, particularly your work in residential development across multiple states." William's smile faltered slightly, but Derek quickly intervened. "Dad has been incredibly successful in real estate. He is actually offering our family an amazing investment opportunity that could really secure everyone's financial future." "How wonderful," I said, opening the folder I had brought with me. "I love learning about investment opportunities. Could you tell me more about this Costa Rican resort project? I have some experience with international real estate law." The next 20 minutes were a masterclass in watching con artists scramble when confronted by someone who understood their game. Derek and William tag-teamed their presentation, describing a luxury resort development that would supposedly generate massive returns for early investors. They showed glossy brochures, fake architectural renderings, and fabricated financial projections that painted a picture of guaranteed wealth. My family hung on every word, their eyes bright with visions of easy money and financial security. Madison kept shooting me warning looks, clearly afraid that I might interfere with her boyfriend's generous offer to enrich our family. When Derek finished his presentation, I smiled and pulled out my own folder. "This all sounds absolutely fascinating. I took the liberty of doing some research on your previous projects, Mr. Harrison, just to help my family make an informed decision." William's face went completely pale as I began reading from the court documents I had gathered. "According to these lawsuit filings, your last 3 development projects resulted in total losses for investors. The Sunset Shores project in Florida was never built, despite collecting over $2 million in investment capital. The Mountain View Resort in Colorado existed only on paper, though you managed to collect $1.8 million before disappearing with the funds." Derek tried to interrupt, but I continued relentlessly. "The Paradise Bay project in Mexico is particularly interesting because the land you claim to own was actually a protected environmental preserve where development has been illegal for 15 years. My family stared in stunned silence as I methodically destroyed William Harrison's credibility with documented evidence of his criminal history. Derek became increasingly agitated, his charming facade cracking as he realized his father's scheme was collapsing. "These are all misunderstandings," William stammered. "Business litigation is common in large development projects. Your research is obviously biased and incomplete." "You are absolutely right," I agreed pleasantly. "My research was incomplete. That is why I asked some friends at the FBI to help me fill in the gaps." The dining room door opened, and 3 federal agents entered with badges displayed and arrest warrants in hand. Agent Seraphina, whom Brian had connected me with weeks earlier, approached our table with professional efficiency. "William Harrison, you are under arrest for wire fraud, money laundering, and operating a criminal enterprise across state lines," Agent Chin announced as 2 agents moved to restrain William. "Derek Harrison, you are under arrest as an accessory to fraud and conspiracy to commit money laundering." Derek's transformation was instantaneous and terrifying. The charming, considerate boyfriend disappeared completely, replaced by a snarling, vicious predator who turned on Madison with shocking cruelty. "You stupid, pathetic girl," Derek hissed as the agents handcuffed him. "Did you really think I cared about you? You were just a means to an end, a way to access your family's money. You are nothing but a spoiled, worthless princess who was too dumb to see that everyone was using you." Madison's face crumpled as Derek continued his verbal assault. "Your sister was right about everything. You are weak, you are selfish, and you will never amount to anything without your parents protecting you. I never loved you, Madison. I never even liked you. You were just the easiest target in a family full of easy targets." As the agents led Derek and William away, Derek turned back with one final cruel laugh. "Enjoy your family dinner, Madison. I hope it was worth destroying your sister's wedding for a fake engagement to a man who despises you." The silence that followed Derek's arrest was deafening. My parents sat frozen in shock, staring at the investment documents that would have bankrupted them completely. Ethan looked physically ill as he realized how close he had come to losing his college fund. Madison was sobbing uncontrollably, her hands shaking as the full weight of Derek's manipulation became clear. Finally, my father spoke in a broken whisper. "Seraphina, how did you know?" "I knew because I used the skills you paid for me to develop," I said quietly. "I investigated Derek the same way I investigate any case where someone I care about might be in danger. The only difference was that this time, the people I was protecting had already made it clear that my well-being was not important to them." My mother reached across the table with tears streaming down her face. "Sweetheart, we had no idea. We thought we were securing the family's future. We thought Derek genuinely loved Madison." "You thought wrong about a lot of things," I replied. "But the most important thing you got wrong was believing that choosing Madison over me would have no consequences." The weeks following Derek and William Harrison's arrest were devastating for my family, but not in the way I had expected. I thought I would feel satisfaction watching them confront the consequences of their betrayal and poor judgment. Instead, I felt an overwhelming mixture of vindication, sadness, and unexpected protectiveness as I watched my family's entire dynamic collapse. Madison suffered a complete emotional breakdown. Derek's cruel rejection at the restaurant had shattered not just her heart, but her fundamental understanding of herself and her place in our family. For 26 years, she had been the golden child whose needs and desires took priority over everyone else's. Discovering that Derek had chosen her specifically because she was weak and manipulable forced her to question every relationship and every decision she had ever made. She moved back into my parents' house and spent most days in bed, refusing to eat or leave her room. When she did emerge, she would find me and apologize repeatedly for her role in the wedding sabotage, begging for forgiveness with a desperation that was painful to witness. "I knew Derek was pushing me to schedule the engagement party for your wedding day," Madison confessed during one of her tearful apologies. "Deep down, I knew it was wrong, but he made it sound like a test of whether our family really supported my happiness. He said that if you truly loved me, you would understand and reschedule. He made me believe that your refusal to change your date proved you were selfish and jealous." My parents were dealing with their own crisis of guilt and self-reflection. The FBI investigation had revealed just how close they had come to financial ruin. If they had invested in William Harrison's Costa Rican resort scheme, they would have lost their house, their retirement savings, and their ability to help any of their children in the future. Dad's law practice was struggling even more after the stress of the arrest made him unable to concentrate on his cases. Mom had taken a leave of absence from her teaching job because she could not stop crying during classes. They were both seeing therapists individually and as a couple, trying to understand how they had become so vulnerable to Derek's manipulation. "We failed you, Seraphina," Dad said during a family meeting we held 2 weeks after the arrests. "We failed you as parents, and we failed Madison by enabling behavior that made her an easy target for predators. We do not know how to fix what we have done, but we want to try." My brother Ethan surprised me by becoming the family's strongest advocate for accountability and change. Derek's scheme had nearly cost him his college fund, and the experience had forced him to examine his own role in our family's dysfunction. I have been thinking about all the times I went along with choosing Madison over Seraphina, Ethan told our parents during that same family meeting. Every birthday party where we changed plans to accommodate Madison's demands, every family vacation where we catered to her preferences, every achievement of Seraphina's that got overshadowed by Madison's latest drama. We trained Madison to believe that her feelings mattered more than anyone else's, and we trained Seraphina to expect disappointment from people who were supposed to love her unconditionally. The legal proceedings against Derek and William Harrison provided an additional layer of stress for my family. As key witnesses in the federal case, my parents and Madison had to relive their manipulation and humiliation repeatedly through depositions, interviews, and court testimony. Agent Chin kept me informed about the investigation's progress and the broader scope of Derek and William's criminal enterprise. They had been targeting families across 7 states for over 15 years, stealing an estimated $12 million from more than 40 victims. My family's case provided the evidence needed to connect Derek and William to earlier crimes and ensure they faced maximum sentences. Your decision to investigate and cooperate with our investigation probably saved dozens of future victims, Agent Chin told me. Derek was already identifying his next target through Madison's social media connections. We found evidence that he was planning to move on to her college roommate's family after finishing with yours. But the most challenging aspect of the aftermath was navigating my own conflicted feelings about my family's suffering. Part of me felt vindicated watching them confront the consequences of their choices. They had betrayed me in the cruelest possible way, choosing a manipulative stranger over their own daughter's wedding day. Their pain felt like justice for the humiliation and heartbreak they had caused me. Yet, seeing Madison's complete breakdown, watching my parents struggle with guilt and depression, and witnessing Ethan's determination to change our family dynamics made me realize that revenge was not as satisfying as I had imagined it would be. During a therapy session I attended alone, my counselor asked me a question that changed my entire perspective on the situation. Seraphina, you saved your family from financial ruin and helped federal investigators stop dangerous criminals. You protected people who had hurt you deeply. What does that tell you about your own character and values? I realized that my actions throughout the crisis had been motivated by love, not revenge. Despite my family's betrayal, I had not been able to stand by and watch them be destroyed by predators. My investigation of Derek and William had been about protecting vulnerable people, not punishing people who had wronged me. This realization forced me to confront an uncomfortable truth. My family's treatment of me had been wrong, but they were not evil people. They were flawed individuals who had fallen into destructive patterns of favoritism and manipulation, making them vulnerable to someone like Derek who understood how to exploit family dysfunction for criminal purposes. The question now was whether our family could rebuild from this foundation of truth and accountability, or whether the damage was too extensive to repair. Marcus, who had watched the entire drama unfold with remarkable patience and wisdom, offered his perspective one evening as we discussed whether to attend Madison's upcoming therapy session, where she planned to make a formal apology to both of us. Your family made terrible choices that hurt you deeply, Marcus said. But they also just learned some very painful lessons about the consequences of those choices. The question is not whether they deserve your forgiveness, but whether you want to be part of building something better from what remains. 3 months after Derek and William's arrest, I found myself sitting in a circle with my entire family and a group therapist, preparing to decide whether we could forge a new relationship based on honesty, accountability, and genuine respect for each other's needs. The conversation that followed would determine whether my family's betrayal had destroyed us permanently, or whether it had created an opportunity to build something stronger and healthier than what we had lost. 9 months after Derek and William Harrison received federal sentences of 12 and 15 years respectively, I stood in the same castle where Marcus and I had been married, preparing to celebrate something I never thought would be possible: my family's redemption. The transformation had not been quick or easy, but it had been genuine. Madison completed an intensive therapy program that helped her understand how her privileged position in our family had made her vulnerable to manipulation while damaging her siblings' relationships with our parents. She moved into her own apartment, found a job as a social worker helping domestic abuse victims, and began the slow process of building an identity separate from her role as the family favorite. "I want to dedicate my life to helping people recognize manipulation and abuse," Madison told me during one of our weekly coffee meetings that had become a cornerstone of our rebuilt relationship. "Derek taught me how it feels to be targeted and isolated. I never want another person to experience what I went through or what I put you through." My parents underwent extensive couples therapy and individual counseling that forced them to confront decades of problematic parenting patterns. They realized that their favoritism toward Madison had not just hurt me, it had damaged Madison by teaching her that love was conditional on being needy and dramatic rather than on being a good person. Dad's law practice recovered slowly as he learned to manage stress and anxiety in healthier ways. Mom returned to teaching with a new perspective on family dynamics that made her better at identifying troubled students who might be experiencing favoritism or neglect at home. Most importantly, they both committed to concrete actions that demonstrated their changed priorities. They established college funds for all their children equally, including a retroactive contribution to make up for the financial support I had not received during law school. They began attending family therapy sessions regularly and insisted that all major family decisions be discussed openly rather than being made to accommodate Madison's immediate desires. Ethan surprised everyone by becoming the family's accountability champion. He started calling out problematic behavior immediately rather than going along with dysfunction to keep peace. When Madison briefly reverted to her old patterns of creating drama to get attention, Ethan was the first to point out that she was falling back into unhealthy habits. "We are never going back to the way things were," Ethan declared during a family meeting when Madison tried to make her birthday party about a fake crisis with her new boyfriend. "We almost lost Seraphina permanently because we thought enabling bad behavior was the same as showing love. We are not making that mistake again." The most meaningful moment in our family's healing process came when my grandparents decided to renew their wedding vows on their 60th anniversary. They asked me to help plan the ceremony and specifically requested that it take place at Ravenscroft Castle, the same venue where they had missed my wedding. "We want to create new memories in the place where we failed you," Grandma Eleanor explained with tears in her eyes. "We want to prove that this family can show up for each other when it matters." The vow renewal ceremony was everything my wedding should have been if my family had made different choices. Every family member attended, not because they felt obligated, but because they genuinely wanted to celebrate love and commitment. Madison served as the wedding coordinator, channeling her attention-seeking tendencies into creating a beautiful event for other people rather than competing for the spotlight. My parents gave a speech about the importance of chosen family alongside blood family, acknowledging that marriage creates new priorities and loyalties that should be celebrated rather than threatened. Ethan walked our grandmother down the aisle while our grandfather waited at the altar, both of them beaming with pride and joy. But the most powerful moment came when Madison approached me after the ceremony with a gift that took my breath away. She had spent months creating a photo album documenting every achievement, milestone, and important moment in my life that our family had minimized or overlooked. The album included pictures from my high school graduation, my law school acceptance letter, my first court victory, and dozens of other accomplishments that had been overshadowed by her drama over the years. "I want you to see yourself the way you deserve to be seen," Madison said as she presented the album. "You have always been the strong one, the successful one, the one who protected everyone else even when we did not protect you. I am sorry it took Derek's cruelty to make me realize how much I had hurt the sister I love most in the world." The album's final page contained a letter from Madison that I treasure to this day. "Seraphina, you saved our family not because we deserved saving, but because that is who you are. You are the kind of person who protects people even when they have hurt you. You are the kind of person who chooses love over revenge, justice over vengeance, and healing over hatred. I want to spend the rest of my life becoming worthy of having you as my sister." A year and a half after my wedding day disaster, Marcus and I hosted our first Thanksgiving dinner in our new house. The guest list included my transformed family, Marcus's relatives, Jessica and her new boyfriend, Brian the private investigator who had become a close friend, and even Agent Chin who had helped us bring Derek and William to justice. As I looked around the dinner table at this mixture of blood family and chosen family, I realized that Derek's attempt to destroy us had actually given us the opportunity to build something stronger. My family had learned that love requires accountability, that loyalty must be earned through consistent actions, and that favoritism ultimately hurts everyone involved. The conversation was lively, honest, and filled with laughter rather than drama. Madison shared stories about her work helping domestic abuse survivors. My parents discussed their therapy breakthroughs, and Ethan talked about his plans for graduate school. Everyone asked thoughtful questions and listened to each other's answers without trying to redirect attention to themselves. Marcus squeezed my hand under the table as my father raised his glass for a toast. To Seraphina, who taught us that real family means showing up for each other even when it is difficult, protecting each other even when you have been hurt, and choosing love even when revenge would be easier. We are grateful every day that you gave us the chance to become worthy of your forgiveness. As everyone raised their glasses, I realized that this was the family I had always wanted: honest, supportive, accountable to each other, and committed to celebrating rather than competing. It had taken a devastating betrayal and a criminal conspiracy to get here, but the destination was worth every painful step of the journey. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever had to choose between protecting family members who hurt you and letting them face the consequences alone? Have you experienced favoritism in your family that made relationships harder? Drop a comment below and share your story, because these family dynamics are more common than we like to admit. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life drama and justice stories. Share this with anyone who has dealt with family betrayal, because sometimes we need to know that healing and accountability are both possible. Thank you for joining me on this journey of family karma and chosen love. Remember that you deserve relationships built on respect, honesty, and genuine care. Until next time, keep choosing love over revenge and growth over grudges. Your future self will thank you for it.